This film is based on a true story. Buenos Aires, Argentina, 2004. Andrea is the mother of 3 children, her sons Gustavo and Matthias, and her daughter Martina. The woman works a lot to provide for the family. After her husband's death, Andrea has to cope on her own. Suddenly police officers burst into the house, demanding that the woman answer where her son Gustavo is. She cries, understanding nothing. The officers, speaking rather harshly, explain that her son is accused of a serious crime. Right before his mother's eyes, Gustavo is arrested and taken away in handcuffs. Andrea rushes to the police station, where Emilio, the lawyer, explains to her that Gustavo is accused of robbery and that the judge will not release him. But the woman refuses to leave until she is allowed to see her son. Andrea creates a scene, however it leads to nothing. When Gustavo is brought out of the station to be transported, the woman tries to run to him, but the escorts stop her. The woman calls her mother and without explaining anything, asks her to look after the children. All this time Andrea follows the convoy as it arrives at the juvenile detention center. There she sees a long line of women whose teenage children have also been arrested. Andrea tries to explain to them that she must see her son right now, but each of them is here for the same reason. In the end, Andrea has to take her place at the back of the line. However, the long wait turns out to be useless, because Andrea's name has not yet been added to the special list. In the end, she has to leave with nothing. The neighbors are already aware of Gustavo's arrest and gossip behind Andrea's back. The house has been turned upside down after the police search. The woman cannot accept that all of this is really happening. And she will never believe that her son is capable of such a thing. Soon Gustavo calls and, since time is limited, quickly tells her the visitation schedule. He only asks her to bring a warm jacket and proper food, because in the detention center they are fed badly. The next morning Andrea arrives at her mother's house to take the children to school, but she does not mention that Gustavo has been arrested, lying that he went away with friends for a week. The elderly woman immediately senses that something is wrong, but Andrea brushes it off. At work Andrea lies as well. Supposedly her mother has been urgently hospitalized, so she must stay with her and will not be able to show up regularly. Emilio tells her plainly that Gustavo is unlikely to be released before the trial. This may take at least 7 months. Hearing this, Andrea is in despair. When Emilio asks whether Gustavo could have hidden something from her, she refuses even to entertain such a thought. Later, Andrea buys new clothes for her son and cooks good food for him. She hides from everyone she knows the fact that Gustavo has been arrested, maintaining the appearance of a normal life. The woman goes to the prison carrying large bags. A guard thoroughly inspects all their contents for prohibited items. He cuts both the blanket and the soap in half because they are too big. Andrea tries to protest when the man pierces the food with a knife. He immediately notes that she is new. Then another guard, a woman, searches Andrea herself to make sure she is not hiding anything forbidden. The whole procedure takes quite a lot of time before she and the other mothers are put on a bus that goes straight to the prison block. In the visitation area it is cold and uncomfortable. At last Andrea is allowed to see her son. Gustavo begs his mother to get him out of here, because he will not endure this place. Andrea tells her son that he will have to be strong, because he will be waiting for the trial in prison. On the way back, the woman cries. She has no choice but to tell the family the truth. Andrea's mother accuses her of allowing Gustavo to be taken away. Andrea cannot believe that her mother truly feels this way. What was she supposed to do? Martina thinks her brother is dead just like their father. Andrea assures her this is not true, that he will come home soon. At the first opportunity Gustavo calls again from the prison. He would have preferred that his sister and brother not know the truth, but Andrea could not do otherwise. She hands the phone to Martina so the girl can see for herself that her brother is alive. Andrea goes to visit her son in prison again. For newcomers, for people like her, it is difficult to get used to the strict rules of this place. But Andrea has already learned that her protest will achieve nothing and will only make the situation worse. She intends next time to bring Martina and Matthias with her, no matter what Gustavo thinks about it. Suddenly noticing her son's sneakers on another boy, Andrea starts a scene. One of the women, Martha, urges her to calm down. If Andrea continues to behave like this, she will only make things worse for Gustavo. The guards demand that Andrea leave immediately. She waits in the parking lot to offer Martha a ride. Andrea is truly grateful to her. Martha explains that they should not interfere in what happens inside. But Andrea cannot bear her own helplessness. She still sees Gustavo as a little boy. Martha smiles and says that they are not children anymore. Now all of Andrea's thoughts are consumed by Gustavo. She even forgets to take her younger children to school on time. Andrea's panic grows, because this morning Gustavo did not call her as he usually does. She asks Emilio to find out why. Even though today is not a visitation day, Andrea goes to the prison building with her younger children, but there she is refused any information, being advised to speak with her lawyer. Soon Andrea receives a call from Alejo, Gustavo's cellmate and another one of Emilio's clients. According to Alejo, Gustavo is fine, but Andrea will not be able to see him before Sunday. He had a small fight. Alejo assures her that this is a common thing. Andrea is unable to concentrate at work, constantly thinking about her son. Time drags for her painfully slowly. Before Sunday the woman cooks a lot of food again, not allowing the younger children to try even a piece. Her mother believes this is wrong, which leads to a conflict. Andrea has completely stopped paying attention to Martina and Matthias, caring only about Gustavo. At least Andrea now has someone who supports her, Martha. Despite everything, Gustavo is glad to see his younger brother and sister. Andrea is happy to meet Alejo. If not for him, she would have lost her mind from worry. Alejo seems kind and polite. The man is older than Gustavo. He also has a daughter, by the way. As a gesture of gratitude, Andrea gives him some treats. The man finds an empty table so they can all sit together. Every woman here visiting her son is ready to fight for him to the end, whether he is guilty or not. So is Andrea. For the first time in a long while, she meets her friends, pretending that everything is fine. But they already know everything and are ready to support her, thinking that Gustavo was hard to control because he lacked a male role model, since Andrea raises her children alone. It turns out that not only Andrea's friends but also everyone at school already knows what happened, and they have even collected donations. Andrea is outraged by this, believing that no one had the right to discuss her son's situation without speaking to her first. The woman misses her husband very much. Perhaps if he were alive, everything would be different. Alejo calls again, but not because something happened to Gustavo, rather because he wanted to talk. Alejo has a 12-year-old daughter, Yamila, but he has not seen her for 10 years. The girl's grandmother forbids it. Yamila's mother died because of their lifestyle. Substances destroyed everything they had. Alejo ended up in prison because of theft. On the surveillance footage the faces are blurry, yet according to Emilio, one of the witnesses identified Gustavo. It was a group robbery, a serious crime. Andrea is determined to get to the truth and approaches Santillan, the organizer of the robbery, a local criminal authority, although everyone strongly advised her not to deal with him. But for the sake of her son the woman is resolute, and nothing will force her to back down. When Andrea is brought to the place, Santillan orders her not to look at him. Despite her fear, she explains that her son has been unjustly imprisoned. She will not be able to live if she does not get him out. Santillan says that Gustavo is a good kid and knows what he is doing. They will take care of him. Andrea does not understand what he means. Santillan only advises her not to interfere, hinting that nothing good will come of it. Barbara, Andrea's boss, is forced to fire her for her regular absences and her neglect of her duties. Emilio also leaves a voice message, saying that Gustavo may avoid trial on the condition that he cooperates with the investigation and provides information about Santillan. During the next prison visit, Andrea demands that her son tell her the whole truth. She knows he is involved in Santillan's criminal affairs. The young man remains silent, and unable to bear it, Andrea slaps him in an attempt to bring him to reason. If he does not turn Santillan in, he will rot in prison. Gustavo only asks her not to interfere and walks away. Andrea cries, realizing that she never truly knew her child. Martha understands Andrea's despair like no one else. She invites Andrea over to have some fun and take her mind off things. At first the woman hesitates, but eventually gives in. A loud party takes place at the house. Martha declares that suffering is a personal choice. One way or another, life goes on, and any pain passes. Andrea wishes she were that strong. That night she drank and danced until she dropped. In the morning she wakes up at Martha's house with a hangover and remembers little. Martha lifts her spirits, saying everyone needs rest from time to time, and there is nothing shameful about it. Accompanied by her new friend, Martha, Andrea goes to the address of Vanilla, Yamila's grandmother, and explains that Alejo would very much like to see his daughter. Vanilla is firmly against it, refusing to have anything to do with Alejo. However, Yamila, who knows nothing about her father, would like to meet him, even if her grandmother forbids it. Andrea brings the girl to the prison for a visit with her father. That is how they meet. Since the last time Alejo saw his daughter she was 2 years old. Andrea is still angry at her son, but that does not mean she will stop supporting him. Gustavo regrets that everything has turned out this way, yet he cannot do otherwise. Seeing Alejo and his daughter embrace, Andrea feels a warmth in her heart. On the other hand, she is deeply saddened by the fact that her own son has ended up behind bars. Alejo is endlessly grateful for what she has done for him, and he believes that one day she will find the strength to forgive her son. Besides Martha, Andrea becomes closer with other women who are going through the same thing. Some of them have fallen into despair and lost their faith in justice, while others have accepted their situation and are trying to live with it. They find support in one another. Andrea receives another call from Alejo. He struggles to find the words to express what he feels. He is nervous, like a boy. But Andrea understands without words what he wants to say. She feels the same. During the next prison visit with her son, she makes it clear that she has forgiven him. Gustavo tells her thank you. Andrea decides to put the house up for sale. Buyers appear quickly. Martha and the other women help Andrea pack her belongings and carry out the furniture. Thus begins a new chapter in Andrea's life. She has accepted the situation and is ready to move forward. Soon the woman comes for an individual visit with Alejo. Both of them are shy like teenagers. They take each other's hands. Feelings and passion take over, and no extra words are needed. In the end, Gustavo refuses to make a deal with the justice system and testify against Santillan, which throws Andrea into a rage. The young man says he will handle it himself and asks both his mother and his lawyer not to interfere. To Andrea's surprise, the other members of the gang testify in Gustavo's favor, stating that he was only a driver and had no idea what they were actually doing. When asked whether he knows a man with the surname Santillan, Gustavo firmly answers no. While waiting for the verdict, Andrea is terribly nervous. She runs to the restroom, where she begins to feel sick. The decisive moment will come very soon. Finally, the judge delivers the verdict. Gustavo receives a 2-year suspended sentence. Emilio objects, emphasizing that his client did not participate in the robbery and has no prior convictions. The court takes the defense's petition into account and completely releases Gustavo from custody. Hearing this, Andrea breaks down in tears of relief. Mother and son embrace. The young man returns home, where his brother and sister are waiting for him. Andrea continues to stay in touch with Alejo. It has not been easy for him to make the decision to say goodbye to Andrea, believing that it will be better for her. The time has come to let go of this and return to a normal life. Alejo wishes her a wonderful life and hangs up. This breaks Andrea's heart, because for the first time since her husband's death she had been able to truly love someone. Nevertheless, Andrea still has her children and her mother. Everything has gone back to the way it was. Or has it? In the final scene we see Andrea with Martha and the other women on a bus heading toward the prison block. Then the voiceover tells us that Andrea continued to visit Alejo for 14 years, they married and had a son. In 2019, Alejo was released. The couple is still together. Andrea has dedicated her life to fighting for the rights of prisoners' families. For dramatic effect, the film shows Gustavo as being involved in criminal activity, but in real life this was not the case.